As a lady starts stirring from the timeless enchantment that ties her to the notion of wedlock, she steps into a gateway, both glowing and frightening. It isn't an uprising against affection, nor a scorn for partnership, but the initial shiver of awareness that murmurs, "You weren't created to be owned by someone else. You were created to own your own spirit." For ages, the female mind has been interlaced with the model of the spouse, the one who lingers, who aches to be selected, who gauges her value by the stare of someone else. But under that gentle picture rests a concealed sorrow, the sorrow of an essence that has confused confinement for bond. Wedlock in its holy beginning was never intended to be a jail. It was a sign, a ceremonial performance of the mystical fusion between the male and female inside the mind. The holy blending that spawns completeness. But as science deteriorated into organizations, the enigma became machinery. What once stood for internal partnership turned into outer agreement. And so the lady who imagined her nuptials as the peak of existence gradually overlooked that her genuine shrine is inside. She started to worship a deity shaped from dread, the deity of communal endorsement, the deity of fitting in no matter the price. The initial layer of deception drops when a lady recognizes that to wed before she has encountered her own spirit is to step into the sanctuary as an outsider. She might adore, yes, profoundly, intensely, but she will adore through assumption, not through existence. The guy turns into the glass on which her hidden mind sketches the picture of her internal male, the spirit guide, and provided she confuses the external guy for that internal picture, she is tied by a delicate enchantment. She adores not him, but what he stirs in her. When he pulls away, she falls apart, for her glow appeared to originate from him. Yet it was always her own glow bounced and bent through someone else's sight. I have observed numerous ladies in visions, standing in front of a glass that gradually shifts to fog. They extend trying to contact the echo of a guy inside it, and their fingers go through. Behind the fog they discover their own visage older, smarter, glowing with isolation. That is the instant of holy dread when the spirit murmurs, "I am not here to be finished. I am here to grow complete." You see, the hidden does not concern itself with the ethical shapes of community. It does not inquire if one should wed or stay solitary. It inquires only, is the partnership vibrant? Does it aid the spirit's development? A wedlock that turns barren, that chokes the creativity, is a grave for the mind. But the isolation that deepens into connection with the internal realm is a meadow where passion still inhales. And it is here that the prohibited reality appears the real community cannot endure. For it takes apart the base of dominance. A lady who has wed her own spirit does not require approval to be. There is an enigma in the female spirit that no oath can hold. It is the enigma of the lunar body, always altering yet timeless. Wedlock, as the globe envisions, it frequently requires steadiness of shape, while the spirit requires steadiness of expansion. One is a band of metal, the other a coil of glow. When a lady ties herself to the previous without respecting the latter, the coil solidifies. She turns into what I have termed the solidified essence, the lady who executes all the proper motions of dedication, but whose gaze no longer sparkles. Her chuckles turn courteous. Her passion turns to obligation, and somewhere in her visions, a youthful girl still dashes shoeless through the meadows, shouting her name. In my examinations of visions, I have frequently met this model, the misplaced spouse. She positions at a shrine of rock, clutching blooms that never fade. Yet her visage is empty. She is awaiting for a partner who will never come. For the partner is not a guy, but the misplaced part of her own mind. When she eventually releases the flowers and steps away from the shrine, the sanctuary crumbles into glow. This is the start of self-realization, the wedlock of the spirit with itself. To state that a lady should never wed is not to denounce affection. It is to warn her against mixing affection with imprisonment. The prohibited reality is that genuine affection flourishes only in liberty. Anything lesser is a shared ownership pretending as commitment. The contemporary lady, receiving ages of male-dominated training, frequently bears inside her both an obedient spouse and a furious insurgent. One bends to be selected. The other denies all ties, yet both are unfinished. Between them rests the genuine female, the one who neither bows nor escapes, but positions in shining isolation, able of partnership, yet not shaped by it. You may inquire, but is not fellowship a human requirement? Is it not natural for a lady to crave collaboration? Yes, it is natural, but so is the sea's craving for the lunar body. The genuine partnership is attractive, not agreed. It emerges when two self-realized spirits, already complete in themselves, circle each other without shadowing. Such affection cannot be regulated. It cannot be vowed. It simply exists like air. But most wedlocks are not born from completeness. They are born from craving. Two unfinished selves clutching at each other's pieces, labeling the setup steadiness. When a lady weds out of dread of isolation, she weds not a guy but her own darkness. For isolation is not lack of companionship, it is lack of link with the self. The unexperienced existence inside her, the creator, the visionary, the explorer, starts to torment her wedlock like a spectre. The more she attempts to quiet that spectre with ease, the louder it cries in her visions. I have recognized ladies who roused at 40 and sensed as though they had been dormant since their nuptial day. The residents, the kids, the habits all had turned into signs of security. Yet under them mixed a dreadful inquiry, whose existence am I experiencing? There is a vision theme I met frequently. A lady positions at her own nuptials, yet the partner's face keeps altering. At times he is her dad, at times an outsider, at times a darkness without shape. Each face stands for an assumption of the spirit guide, the male rule she has not yet combined. The vision concludes only when she dares to lift the cover and look straight at herself. Then she rouses in tears, recognizing that the wedlock she pursues is an internal one. The ritual is not called off. It is changed. The prohibited reality is that community dreads such ladies, for they cannot be dominated through the old models. The spouse, the partner, the parent. These have been the disguises through which the group has held the female enigma. But when a lady pulls back her power from those disguises and turns internal, she turns unpredictable, wild, shining with her own rule. She stops to operate simply as an addition of the male system. She turns into a prophet of the self, a glass through which others catch sight of their own hidden. This to the group mind is unbearable for it. It breaks the structure of reliance. I recall once authoring that the honor of a lifetime is to turn into who you really are. For a lady, that honor frequently demands defiance not against guys, but against the fake deities inside her own mind. She must forget the faith that affection needs forfeit of spirit. She must rediscover passion as holy interest, not slavery. The globe will label her egocentric, chilly or hazardous, for her power no longer nourishes the group deception. Yet in reality, she has turned into what she was intended to be from the start. The living picture of the spirit of the globe. The spirit of the globe roused in body. Every genuine change starts with a collapse. When a lady starts to query the legend of wedlock, she frequently encounters hopelessness. The tale she was narrated falls apart. The future she pictured melts. It senses like demise, because it is the demise of the character, the communal disguise of the good lady. But behind that demise awaits a revival of existence. I have observed this in the gazes of ladies who have gone through the dark evening of self, disloyalty, and appeared shining with self-reliance. They no longer pursue confirmation. They emit existence. Their isolation is not void, but a cradle of invention. The holy female, when liberated from the agreement of mimicry, turns into the container of the hidden itself. She visions not simply for herself, but for humankind. Her sights are foretelling because they uncover what the group denies to observe. And in our era, what the group denies to observe is that affection cannot exist with ownership. A lady who weds her liberty is more hazardous to the old globe than any uprising, for she takes apart its base. The faith that a lady's worth rests in being selected rather than roused. The enigma, however, is not to deny affection, but to change it. When a lady uncovers the internal wedlock, the outer connections she draws are of a different kind. They are no longer founded on requirement, but on harmony. The guy who encounters her no longer pursues to possess her glow, for he has encountered his own gloom. Their partnership turns into a mystical container, the sealed jar where both spirits are changed through shared echo. But such partnerships are uncommon. They demand two persons who have both confronted their own hidden, who have both perished to the deception of dominance. And so I state, before a lady weds any guy, let her first wed her isolation. Let her learn to rest in the sanctuary of her own quiet, until she can listen the murmur of her spirit. Let her face the specters of her training, the voices that say she is unfinished, that her worth rests in being desired. When those voices diminish, when she can glance into the glass and observe not a part, but existence, then only then can affection discover her without devouring her. The prohibited reality is that most of what we label romance is a hidden try to flee self-realization. It is simpler to construct a residence with another than to reside in the changing terrain of the spirit. Yet the spirit demands nothing lesser. And when a lady finally pays attention to that demand, she turns shining with a different type of beauty. The beauty of genuineness, of existence, of being who she really is without mask. She is no longer a spouse awaiting her partner. She is the timeless spouse of the self, the unseen partnership that no ritual can bless, yet all genuine affection flows from it. When the first layer of deception has dropped, and a lady starts to observe the structure of her own training, another motion mixes in the depths of her mind. It is delicate at first, like the gradual ascending of vapor from a woodland after precipitation, a feeling that the guy she thought she adored was never completely outside. The recognition emerges with both grief and wonder. What she pursued in him was an echo of her own unexperienced male, the internal partner who provides shape, path, and reason to her passion. This internal male, the spirit guide, has long been misconstrued. To some ladies he shows as the oppressor, the internal voice that critiques, orders, and confines. To others, he arrives as the redeemer, the picture of the ideal adored who will save her from isolation. Both are twists, shadows thrown by the same model. The genuine spirit guide is neither a guard nor a savior. He is the link between the hidden and awareness. He is the essence of judgment that provides wings to instinct, the internal term that converts emotion into significance. But when a lady assumes this internal figure onto a guy, she gives away her strength to the picture she herself has made. This is the secret catastrophe of romantic glorification. The outer guy turns burdened with a duty no person can accomplish to represent the divine male within her mind. Inevitably, he falters, and in his falter, she senses betrayed, for she confused her own spirit for him. That is why the old mystics spoke of blending of contrasts, the partnership of opposites, as the supreme labor. They comprehended that no outer wedlock could last unless the internal wedlock had already occurred. Until a lady combines her spirit guide, she will forever swing between adoration and bitterness, commitment and letdown, pursuing in another what can only be born within. When this reality emerges, it is not mild. It breaks deceptions with precise accuracy. The lady senses as though her heart is being cleared of all known shapes of affection, and in that void, a new awareness starts to inhale. The voice of the internal male, once assumed outward, now talks within. It no longer orders, it converses. It no longer requires obedience. It provides clearness. In this holy conversation between passion and reason, between spirit and essence, a third existence is born, the self, that enigmatic core which is both male and female, both known and unknown. I have observed this change often show in visions. A lady positions at a vast ocean, watching a vessel disappear beyond the skyline. On the coast, she discovers a guide, glowing and motionless. She lifts it up, and suddenly the ocean turns internal. It turns into her own circulation, her own existence. The vessel, once navigating away from her, is uncovered to have been her own yearning for the male rule. The guide is the sign of direction. It signifies the birth of internal path. No longer pushed by hidden desire, she starts to live in beat with her own rule. This instant is hazardous, for it entices the self to arrogance. The lady may think, I require no one now. I am complete, but completeness is not separation. It is connection without reliance. The hazard of self-realization is that one can mix self-rule with separation. Genuine self-rule is connected. It allows affection to stream without dread of loss. The lady who has combined her spirit guide can adore deeply without giving up her core. She can stroll beside another without strolling behind. She turns into both container and blaze, open and shining. like the lunar body that echoes sunlight yet controls the waves in her own right. To comprehend why the hidden resists this change, one must grasp the legendary roots of wedlock. In the group mind, wedlock represents not simply partnership between two forms, but the taming of the untamed. Every society in its way has attempted to tame the female by tying it to a fixed shape: partner, parent, nurturer. These are not naturally false models, but when they solidify into anticipations, they turn into jails. The untamed female, the natural, instinctive, lunar power cannot inhale in restriction. Her affection is repeating, her wisdom flowing. She must stream and withdraw, make and ruin, vision and rouse. The organization of wedlock as community has created it demands straightness, where the spirit moves in coils. Thus many ladies once wed feel an unseen choking. Outwardly everything seems steady, a residence, a title, a beat of existence. Inwardly the blaze fades, her visions grow weak. The lunar body of her hidden diminishes. She starts to speak in Lent terms, live in Lent time, and yet in the deep evening of the mind a uprising mixes. It is not uprising against the spouse, nor against the oath, but against the falsehood that security is worth the cost of spirit. When the spirit rebels, it does so quietly at first through small acts of resistance. A sudden desire to draw again, though years have gone. A yearning to rest alone beneath the stars. A vision in which she dashes barefoot through a woodland, free. These are not random urges. They are communications from the internal realm declaring that the mind refuses to stay tamed. If she disregards them, disorder starts: melancholy, tiredness, bitterness. These are the signs of a spirit imprisoned. But if she hears, if she follows the string of her yearning, something wonderful unfolds. The power once captured in conformity returns as invention. What was once a wedlock of obligation turns into a partnership with fate. She starts to author her own legend. And in that legend, affection reemerges not as ownership, but as existence. There is a tale I once listened. In a vision, a lady strolled into a temple built entirely of glasses. At first she observed herself increased into eternity and sensed lost among her echoes. Then one by one the glasses broke, and through each crack glow poured in. When the last glass shattered, she recognized that the glow had been inside her all along. That is what occurs when the assumption melts. The glass of wedlock breaks, and what stays is the shining isolation of the self. Yet the group mind dreads this glow, for it cannot be possessed or grouped. A lady who has found her internal male, who no longer assumes him, onto guise turns into a mental insurgent. She disrupts the hidden system of community which depends on ladies staying dependent. The male dominated globe shakes before her, not because she despises guys, but because she no longer requires them to shape her reality. Her affection turns universal. It includes, but is not restricted to the human collaborator. She may still choose to stroll beside a guy, but that choice arises from abundance, not from dread. The old visionaries comprehended this state. They spoke of the divine partnership, the holy wedlock within. In mystical texts, it is represented by the partnership of the crimson ruler and the pale monarch, the star and the lunar body, element and fluid. When the blending happens, the contrasts within the spirit merge into a living third, the wise rock, sign of eternity. The lady who reaches this internal wedlock turns mentally eternal. She no longer lives simply in straight time, but in symbolic time where each encounter is part of a timeless design. She starts to sense significance in every grief, system in every disorder. It is in this stage that many ladies encounter a deep redirection of affection. What once was romantic turns devotional. What once was desire turns awareness. Affection stops to be something she pursues to get. It turns into the way she views reality. She no longer inquires who will adore me, but rather through whom will affection wish to show itself today. This change from requirement to involvement marks the birth of spiritual passion affection as an act of awareness rather than force. And yet this rousing often separates her. The globe of looks cannot easily comprehend such affection to others. She may seem distant, separated, even chilly. But in reality, she has simply entered a deeper closeness, one that cannot be gauged by closeness or ownership. Her affection turns spacious. It allows others to be as they are. She no longer holds, for she has recognized that nothing real can be lost. The more she lets go, the more existence returns to her. This is why I state a lady should never wed until she has known her isolation as sacred. For only isolation can teach her the difference between affection and reliance. Only quiet can uncover the voice of the internal male, and only combination can make partnership possible. Anything lesser is repetition of the group vision, the endless cycle of assumption, letdown and withdrawal. When this stage ripens, a lady's gaze alters. It turns calm, leisurely, almost shining with separation. She looks at guys not as redeemers or dangers, but as fellow voyagers in the great labor of self-realization. Her connections stop to be dramas of requirement and turn into glasses of development. Each meeting, each sorrow, each delight turns part of the holy conversation between her spirit and the globe. I have stated before that the hidden is not against awareness. It yearns for connection. The lady who hears to her internal male turns into the priestess of this connection. She mediates between the seen and unseen, between impulse and understanding. Her existence turns a ceremony, her terms, and call her quiet, a sanctuary. And in that sanctuary, she recognizes at last why she should never wed. Not because affection is prohibited, but because she herself has turned into the wedlock she once pursued. When the second layer melts and the lady starts to position within her own core, a great quietness comes. Not the peace of finish, but the quiet that follows a quake. For everything that once shaped her identity has started to fall apart. The titles, the parts, the pledges, they drop away like fall foliage, and she finds herself positioning bare in the desert of the spirit. This is the evening Jung called the darkening, the blackening of the mystical labor. It is not hopelessness in the usual sense. It is the sacred confusion that precedes rebirth. The lady who once fitted everywhere now fits nowhere, for she has pulled back her assumptions from the outer globe and has not yet found the new shape her existence will take. This evening cannot be evaded. It is the melting pot in which the false female perishes. She will sense deserted by both deities and guys, and she will be enticed to return to the known, to pursue ease in another's embrace, to re-step into the agreement she once fled. But the hidden is ruthless with those who turn back. The entrance she left behind has shut, and ahead there is only gloom. Yet this gloom is vibrant. It inhales, it murmurs, it starts to form her from within. In this stage, visions turn her instructors. They speak not in reason, but in pictures. She may vision of roaming through endless passages, of hunting for a kid she cannot locate, of bearing a light that never extinguishes. Each picture is a communication from the self directing her deeper into the maze. The lost kid is her inventive spirit. The light is her awareness, delicate yet timeless. When she finally stops hunting and kneels to hold the gloom itself, the kid returns, for the lost kid was never outside. It was concealed in the darkness. She refused to touch the darkness. This term, so often misconstrued, is not wicked. It is simply the unexperienced existence. For the wed lady, the darkness may contain her unexperienced enthusiasms, her intellect, her anger, her sensuality, her madness. Everything she suppressed to maintain harmony in the outer globe now rises demanding recognition. To embrace the darkness is to reclaim one's completeness. But this reclamation senses like disorder. The mind long repressed erupts with visions, memories, and desires that seem to contradict one another. She may inquire, "Who am I if not the partner, the adored, the good lady?" And the spirit replies, "You are the one who holds all of these, and none of them alone shape you." It is during this blackening that passion transforms from outer yearning to internal blaze. What once reached outward toward another now burns internal, lighting the caves of the mind. This is the sacred injury of change. When desire loses its object and turns into supplication, the lady senses her isolation like an illness. Yet in that illness, her spirit is cleansed. The old hunger to be observed, selected, possessed, perishes away, and a new hunger arises to know, to make, to serve something greater than the personal self. The globe, however, will not comprehend her. To the group eye, she appears odd, separated, perhaps even hazardous. Her denial to re-step into the old designs threatens the balance of others. They may label her chilly or damaged or too self-reliant. But what they sense and cannot name is her self-rule, the aroma of a spirit no longer for purchase. There is nothing more unsettling to the unconscious group than a lady who has stopped to play the part assigned to her. She turns into a glass in which others observe their own imprisonment. Thus she strolls alone, not because she denies humankind, but because she bears a glow too bright for those still dormant. In this isolation, the lady encounters her deepest foe, her internal ruler. He is the internalized voice of ages, murmuring that her worth depends on her usefulness to others. He tells her that liberty is egocentric, that self-reliance is isolation, that without a guide she is unfinished. This voice is clever, convincing, and it speaks in the tone of reason. It may even disguise itself as spirituality, urging her to serve, to be modest, to give up. But she starts to observe that this voice is not divine. It is the specter of the group, and she must slay it not with anger, but with awareness. I once authored that there is no coming to awareness without pain. This is that pain, the slow removal of the false male from within the female mind. The lady learns to distinguish between the spirit guide as divine intelligence and the ruler as internalized power. The former directs her toward combination. The latter chains her to obedience. The distinction is delicate yet essential. When she quiets the ruler and listens, instead to the genuine spirit guide, she uncovers that his voice is not ordering but clarifying. He does not say obey, he says rouse. The mystics depicted this stage as the demise of the ruler. The female container, once oppressed by the false leader, turns into the grave in which the old system perishes. And in that demise, a new glow starts to shine. The whitening, she starts to observe beauty in isolation, significance in her pain, purpose in her past. The grief that once threatened to submerge her now turns into the stream that carries her toward her own core. Every tear turns to gem. Every loss turns into lesson. I have observed ladies emerge from this gloom, shining with a power they never pursued. They no longer need to demonstrate or explain. Their speech is slow, intentional, as though each term is drawn from the depths of time. Their beauty alters. It no longer entices, it attracts. Their gazes no longer pursue affirmation. They uncover existence in them. The holy female and the combined male live as one, not merged, but moving like blaze and wind. They have turned into blending embodied, and yet the tale does not conclude here. The lady who has reached internal partnership must now bring it into the globe to live it, not just know it. This is a third layer. The return for change that remains private is unfinished. Self-realization is never separation. It is preparation for involvement. She must re-step into existence, not as the dependent spouse, but as the aware maker. She must adore again, but from the spirit outward, not from the injury internal. This return is not simple. The globe she left behind has not altered. Though she has, she will find that many cannot meet her gaze. For her gazes now speak of liberty. She will encounter guys who desire her glow, but dread its source. She will be enticed to fade herself to fit once more. But the spirit will not allow backward. Every compromise will sense like choking. Every false affection like toxin. The only connections that will last are those rooted in mutual awareness. The rest will melt like vapor at dawn. To live as a free lady in an unfree globe is an initiation few endure. It demands constant watchfulness, the awareness to remain open without giving up sovereignty, compassionate without absorbing others hidden. But this too is part of the great labor. The lady turns into not simply an person, but a model, a display of the roused female in group history. Her existence itself turns into a sign through which others may catch sight of the possibility of internal wedlock. When I speak of a lady who should never get wed, I do not speak of rule but of awareness. I speak of a lady who knows that affection cannot be ordered, that oaths cannot tie what is timeless. Wedlock may come to her as a favor, as an enigma, as a shared commitment, but it will never again be and flee from herself. She has crossed a gateway where reliance once resided and found that her spirit is its own heaven. Whether she strolls beside another or alone, she remains wed to the timeless. In this state, even suffering alters its taste. It no longer senses like punishment, but involvement. She senses that every challenge, every sorrow, every loss of deception serves the unfolding of herself. The self, that central model of completeness, is not achieved but uncovered, not built, but recalled. The lady who has strolled through the dark evening emerges knowing that she was never damaged, only buried under layers of lent existence. Her rousing is not an achievement, it is a return. There is a final vision that often marks this passage. A lady positions again at the shrine, but this time there is no cleric, no partner, no observers. Before her lies a pond of water. Motionless as crystal she kneels, and her echo looks back, not as she was, but as she has turned into timeless shining. Calm, she dips her hand into the water and waves form into signs. The snake, the lunar body, the blaze. These are the symbols of her own enigmas. She rises and strolls away, leaving the shrine behind. The sanctuary melts into vapor, and she steps into open sunlight. The wedlock has been finished, but within. This is the prohibited reality. When a lady weds her own spirit, the globe shakes, for she no longer serves the hidden scripts of community. She lives as a living legend, a link between what has been and what can be. Her affection heals not because it conforms, but because it uncovers. And through her, the group starts slowly, painfully to recall that the female was never meant to be owned, only known. When the gloom has done its labor, and the spirit has endured its own melting, dawn does not arrive as a sudden explosion of glow. It comes as a quiet knowing. The lady who has descended into the underworld of her mind does not return victorious. She returns changed. Her beauty is not the beauty of youth, nor of conquest, but of quietness. The kind of radiance that arises when the internal contrasts have learned to inhale together. It is the soft blaze of one who has observed both paradise and inferno within herself, and has stopped to divide them. She has turned into complete. This completeness is not perfection. It is involvement in the enigma of existence as it is. The lady no longer pursues to improve herself to be adored. She pursues to comprehend herself to adore better. The outer wedlock, once glorified, now uncovers its genuine significance. A glass through which the spirit views itself. For every connection, whether romantic or otherwise, is but an echo of the timeless dance between the aware and the hidden. The guy she once called adored or spouse now appears to her as a model, a moving picture of the internal male. If he is aware, their partnership turns into a container of mutual change. If he is not, she adores him and lets go him, for she no longer mixes attachment with affection. You see, the highest form of affection is not to tie but to bless. The lady who has united with her spirit no longer pursues to possess or to be possessed. She pursues harmony. She can position in the existence of another without losing her core. Her gaze does not require. It lights. Her affection does not inquire. Will you remain? It murmurs. Are you roused? And if the answer is yes, even for an instant, the meeting turns sacred regardless of its length. The spirit measures affection not by time but by depth. This is what I mean when I say that a lady should never get wed. She should never wed out of ignorance of her own depth. For the genuine wedlock, the blending has already taken place within her. The outer ritual, if it happens at all, is but an echo of an internal oath. The oath to remain faithful to her own becoming. To betray that oath, even in the name of affection, is to abandon the spirit's purpose. But to honor, it is to step into a state of living connection where every motion, every quiet, every act turns into a holy act. When the female spirit reaches this lighting, She no longer divides the globe into holy and ordinary. All things turn into expressions of the same underlying unity. Cleaning plates, caring for a garden, hearing a friend. Each act is filled with awareness. The ordinary turns holy because she is present. Presence, this is her new oath. The old oath was to another. The new oath is to awareness itself. She does not inquire existence to protect her. She participates in its unfolding with an open heart. Her faith is not in permanence, but in the continual renewal of significance in mysticism. This is the reddening. The reddening, the return of warmth, the embodiment of essence in matter. The lady who has endured the darkening, blackening, and whitening, now bears glow in her body. She is no longer hunting for deity. She emits the divine through her existence. The holy wedlock has been completed not in a sanctuary or residence, but in the space between her breath and her awareness, passion and reason, lunar body and star, essence and spirit guide all dance within her as one living entity. She has turned into a small universe of the universe. At this stage, the inquiry of wedlock loses its urgency. Whether she shares her existence with another or strolls alone, she remains inwardly united. The outer shape no longer determines her fulfillment. She has recognized that what she once called affection was often the desire to flee the burden of awareness. Now she comprehends that affection is the very expression of awareness, the act of observing the divine in the other without wanting to own it. Genuine affection is liberty in recognition. When she encounters a guy now, she no longer assumes her internal male upon him. She observes him as he is flawed, human, shining in his struggle. And because she no longer requires that he complete her, she allows him to be free. This liberty oddly deepens closeness. For affection without requirement is pure attraction. It draws spirits together not by dread, but by reality. She may choose to stroll beside him, but she does not tie him with oaths that choke. Their bond is not organizational but mystical, a shared labor of change. Each mirrors the other's depths, not to possess but to rouse. There are instances when such affection appears almost impersonal, not chilly. But she senses that through loving one, she loves all. Through forgiving one, she heals her ancestry. Through embracing her own isolation, she blesses the isolation of the globe. For the lady who has united with her spirit no longer belongs simply to herself. She turns into a container of the group change. The essence within her expands into the world, essence the world spirit. Her person rousing turns into a wave in the sea of the group hidden. You may inquire, does she never feel yearning again? Of course she does. Yearning is the beat of the spirit, but it is no longer the restless hunger of absence. It is the sweet pain of involvement. She yearns not for someone to fill her, but for the continual unfolding of affection itself. Her passion has turned into universal. She can rest alone at night under the quiet stars and sense herself wed to existence. The wind through the trees, the beat of her blood, the slow movement of clouds, all of it turns into her companion. Isolation transforms into connection. This then is the prohibited reality. Wedlock as humankind envisions, it was only ever a sign. The genuine wedlock is not between guy and lady, but between awareness and the hidden, between the temporary and the timeless, between the self we know and the self that knows us. Until that partnership occurs within, all outer partnerships are but practices. But when it happens, when the internal contrasts embrace, the whole globe turns into a nuptial banquet. Every meeting, every dawn, every instant of awareness is an oath renewed. And so when I say that a lady should never get wed, I mean that she should never give herself to an outer shape before she has known the internal shapelessness. She must first position at the shrine of her own existence and speak the terms no cleric can teach her. I am my own. I am complete. I am the beloved and the lover, the spouse and the partner, the lunar body and the star. Only then can she step into connection as a maker, not a prisoner. Only then can affection turn into what it was meant to be, a conversation between deities disguised as humans. In the abundance of this recognition, even time alters. The lady no longer measures her existence by milestones, wedlock, kids, achievements. She measures it by rousings. Every cycle of loss and renewal turns into a season of the spirit. She grows close with impermanence, knowing that nothing truly concludes. What perishes is deception. What remains is core. She smiles at her echo and observes not a visage aging, but a spirit ripening. She comprehends that affection itself is the great mystic turning pain into wisdom, isolation into existence, and separation into unity. The globe will continue to inquire her, "Why are you alone?" But she knows she is not. She strolls hand in hand with the unseen, with her visions, her instincts, her inventive blaze. Her existence turns into her art. Her connections, when they arise, are not needs but offerings. She gives without losing, receives without holding. This is not separation. It is holy involvement. She adores from the core outward, and everything she touches rouses. In the end, the inquiry is not whether she weds or not, but whether she remains faithful to the self. For that is the only timeless oath. All others are rituals of time, beautiful but passing. The spirit's wedlock, however, is beyond birth and death. It is the invisible string that weaves all lifetimes into one fabric. When the lady recalls this, she no longer pursues salvation through affection. She turns into salvation through affection. Her gazes, once filled with yearning, now hold the glow of recognition, the quiet knowing that she has never been separate from the divine. The circle is complete, and so the talk concludes where it started, in the enigma of passion. But now it is, as it is no longer the blaze that burns to possess, but the warmth that gives existence. It is the beat that moves galaxies and hearts alike. A lady who has stepped into this awareness has transcended the need to be selected, because she has selected herself. She has reclaimed the holy right to exist as a whole living sign of creation itself. This is the prohibited reality. Not that a lady should live without affection, but that she should adore as awareness adores, freely, deeply, without dread. For when she turns into this affection, the universe itself turns into her timeless collaborator. And in that partnership, silent, shining, infinite, she is finally home. But what if this awakening leads to something unexpected? True love thrives in freedom alone. Imagine if society feared this power. Could solitude be the key to wholeness? What happens when the veil falls? Become whole before seeking union. Is marriage a trap or a symbol? Why does the soul rebel? Can love exist without possession? What if loneliness is a lie? How does the inner masculine speak? Is wholeness isolation or connection? Why resist the transformation? What stirs in the psyche's night? Can shadows become allies? Who is the inner patriarch? What emerges from the darkness? Is the return the true test? How does suffering transform? What is the final vow? Can love be cosmic? Why measure by awakenings? Is this the forbidden truth? And if you found this insightful, please like this video and subscribe to Wake and Win for more transformative content.